All the Miao have musical festivals once or twice a year, now in one part of the country and now in another. If asked why they hold these festivals, they say that if they failed to do so their harvests would be bad, and yet they do not profess to understand how the harvests are influenced by this custom. If ever there was a religious element in their musical festivals, there does not seem to be anything religious about them now. As at present conduct they are fêtes, attended by the people from all the countryside, at which there is not only music but also pony running and buffalo fights. These fêtes are great occasions for social intercourse among the old folk and for courting among the young. A young man remarked to a missionary, "If I do not go to the festivals I shall never get a wife." Scores and hundreds of girls are to be seen there in all the glory of richly embroidered clothes and heavy silver ornaments. And just as many young men in their finery. The musical instrument they play at these festivals they call qi, and the Chinese call it lu sen or *6 tones. They are made of bamboo pipes, sometimes 6 being let into a piece of wood, a hollow club, the handle of which is the mouthpiece. The noise, perhaps we ought to say sound, is produced by a brass tongue attached to a small metal frame, such as are used in concertinas and harmoniums, let into the bamboo tube, one in each of them. The sound is something like the sound of the bagpipes. They are made in sets of different size, the smallest having pipes about 3 feet long, and the largest with pipes 12 or 14 feet long. The lower end of the large pipes is put into a drum or cylinder 3 or 4 feet long, hollowed out of the trunk of a tree. These large reeds give forth a very creepy sound, the lowest note, we believe, to which mortal ears are sensible. The tunes they play are very monotonous. At the Miao festivals, 5 players in a row, with instruments of different sizes, wheel round and round the man who plays the large pipes with the drum. A row of 5 young women go round with them, sometimes facing them and moving backwards, sometimes behind and following. To alter their position, the young women wheel outside of the circle, let the pipers go round, and then wheel in again. This they call dancing, but there is no real dancing about it. It is merely pacing, yet it seems to interest them, and they do it very seriously. We think it must be reckoned bad form for them to laugh or smile while thus engaged, for we have seen the girls severely exerting themselves to keep their faces straight when they evidently wanted at least to smile. As for the pipers, it is no laughing or smiling matter for them. They exert themselves so much that their cheeks are swollen, their eyes seem to stand out of their heads, and the perspiration streams down their red faces. We have seen 30 or 40 of these groups of 10, circling round on one plot of ground, hemmed in by hundreds of spectators. The sound of so many pipes all playing independently at the same time and place is certainly not music, and soon becomes positively exasperating to some ears. On the edge of the crowd are sweetstuff and cake sellers, and other hawkers moving about. All the Miao have these festivals, but the music and pacing are not the same. Among the Hua Miao and Shuishi Miao, the women don't dance, but men dressed up in women's clothes, with their hair done up like women, take their place. Among the Hua Miao, all the babies born during the year are taken to these festivals and carried about on the backs of their fathers. Many of the Miao villages around Anshanfu have, besides the pipes, their own band of 4 musicians, provided with a drum, a pair of cymbals, and 2 flageolets or flutes. These musicians are often invited and paid by the Chinese to play at their marriages, funerals, and other functions. The pony runnings at these festivals are not races, and there are no prizes given. A piece of land is selected, level or nearly level, and about 150 yards long. Along this they gallop in a line one after another. On reaching the end of the course they turn off, and walk or trot back again to the starting place. Like boys who have made a slide on the ice. When on the course they gallop the ponies at the top of their speed. Anyone on Apani can join in or leave off when he likes. We have attended these festivals, but have never seen a buffalo fight. We have seen men urging on the buffaloes to fight with one another, but the animals either did not understand what was expected of them or they had too much sense to do anything so foolish. On one occasion we saw a buffalo, exasperated by these attempts, break away from its tormentors and tear away at full speed across the ground. It overturned a pony and its rider, but did not attempt to gore them. All the buffalo wanted was to get clear away, and as everybody there showed the utmost possible alacrity to give it plenty of room, it succeeded. We have heard, however, that buffaloes do fight sometimes at these festivals, and that now and then one gets killed in the contest. They also fight sometimes of their own accord. We once saw two combatant buffaloes with their horns locked together, and half of the village pulling at ropes attached to their hind legs. They were finally pulled apart, and neither of them seemed any the worse for the encounter. The Miao and, we think, all the other races of Eastern Asia ought to be reckoned as animists. The Chinese may call themselves Confucianists and Buddhists, but they are also animists. It is conceivable that in a short time many of them will profess to be agnostics and materialists, but they will also be animists. For all the peoples of Eastern Asia the world is full of immaterial powers and intelligences. Even certain rocks and trees are possessed of some sort of spiritual efficacy. Among the Maya these spiritual beings are demons and always inimical to humankind. At first we were inclined to think that the Miao worshipped demons, but when again and again they denied this, and seemed unfeignedly amused at the idea of worshipping demons, we concluded that we were mistaken. The performances they go through, which seem to us like religious rites, are done to drive away or keep away the demons, and to counteract their evil influences. If a man is ill or his cattle one sick, if he has had bad luck or any misfortune falls him, he attributes this to demons, and a wizard or exorcist is summoned. Their modes of procedure are various, but might generally be summed up as offerings, unintelligible mutterings, and the throwing about of rice water and knives in every direction. They also believe in the use of herbs as medicine, but when to take medicine and when to send for the exorcist is not very clear. We imagine when a man is sick he first takes medicine, and if this fails to act as it ought, he concludes there is a demon troubling him and sends for an exorcist to deal with it. In the case of ague, the Miao always think it is a demon, and the sufferer goes away into the woods to hide himself and thus escape from it. Any man who has learned the incantations and knows how things ought to be done may be a wizard or exorcist. Their fees are not exorbitant. A quart or two of rice and a little of anything else that may be going, pork or whiskey, is all they get for their services. There are usually 2 or 3 of them in every village. The Miao say that their exorcists are the same as the Chinese Tuankang or Taoists, and so it appears to us they are. Sometimes a man is accused of having gadman, and this is a bad thing for the man if it is generally believed. This does not mean that he is possessed by a devil, but that he has at his command a demon who does his will to the injury of others. We know a man who lately accused a neighbor before the Chinese magistrate for saying that he had a demon. They believe also in such demon possession as is recorded in the New Testament, so do also the Chinese. They also believe in soothsayers, and often when anything is lost or stolen, or if an unknown person has injured their property, they consult them. After the soothsayer has received his fee, he performs certain ceremonies, and after a longer or shorter time a demon takes possession of him. He at once begins to mutter and answer questions, without moving his lips, something after the manner of a ventriloquist. Very often the answers are correct, but not always. The Miao say it is the demon who speaks, not the man. Sometimes the soothsayer will tell a man to offer oxen in sacrifice to his deceased parents when his luck is bad. These soothsayers do not eat flesh meat. A missionary once asked one of them if he were still practicing his art, whereat all the other Miao laughed, and the man replied, "Since he have begun to eat meat, the demon will not come to me." The Miao are great believers in witches and witchcraft, but they say that only one here and there can really bewitch people. Even the Chinese are afraid of Miao witches, and fear tot food offered them by the Miao lest they should be bewitched or poisoned. Missionaries, who are not infrequently appealed to by Chinese when they fancy themselves bewitched by the Miao, mostly find them to be suffering from malarial. The Miao say that the witch throws things down on the road. Sometimes only a straw, and the first person who comes along is bewitched. They may also bewitch a person's food and in this way injure him. Some time ago the whole countryside not far from Anshanfu was troubled by a witch. The Miao from that region came in a body to the district magistrate in Anshanfu city, and petitioned that the witch might be removed from that neighborhood. The witch was arrested and banished. All the Miao believe in the soul and a future state. The Chio Miao say that a man has 3 souls, one is his shadow, one is his reflection as seen in the water, and the third is his real self. Probably they learned this from the Chinese. As a rule, we think they only know and speak of one soul. They also believe in heaven, but most of them know nothing about a hell. The Hua Miao say there is a place in the earth where demons are, but do not mention it as a place to which the souls of the wicked go. They think that ordinary people, that is most people, when they die go to heaven, but that very wicked people are born again on earth in a very wretched condition. We doubt if they attach the same idea of superlative bliss to the place where the dead go as is generally associated with heaven, but we must think of it as heaven because they call it so, and speak of it as being above the sky. The ancient Chinese seem to have had no knowledge of a purgatory or hell. In the classical books the good kings who died are mentioned as being in heaven with their loyal ministers, but nothing is said of bad kings and bad ministers who died, or of the common people. What the Chinese now say of hell or purgatory they learned from the Buddhists, and if any Miao now talk of hell, they have probably learnt it from the Chinese. Of course, beliefs and practices vary among the different tribes, and their funeral ceremonies and rites concerning the dead are not all just the same. Among the He Miao, when a man dies, they plait a mat of bamboo, 6 feet bitwo feet, upon which they lay the corpse. In dressing the dead they do not fasten the clothes in the usual way on the right side, but lay them loose on the left side. Next they invite an exorcist to drive away any evil influences that might injure the living or the dead, and to choose a day for the interment. To drive away all evil influences, he kills an ox, pig, sheep, fowl, or duck. If the deceased is a man, he kills a male animal, if a woman, a female one. The animal and any other victim used is subsequently eaten. All the relations of the family are notified, who come to console and make presents, mostly of calico, though some may give satin to cover the corpse. Sometimes the relations give the animals used in sacrifice, and sometimes money to assist in the expenses. A suitable day having been chosen for the burial, before beginning to dig the grave, they make a hole in the middle of the plot. And having burned a small piece of flesh, they put it in the hole. This sod with the burnt meat is then cut out and placed on one side, to be finally put on the top of the grave. When the grave, which is not very deep, is dug, the empty coffin is placed in it. On the bottom of the coffin they spread 5, 7, or 9 layers of paper. Why this is done no one seems to know. Before the body is carried out, the exorcist calls the road or opens the road. The idea is that the soul of the deceased is going on a long journey, and the exorcist tells him or her the route. He says, "You will see the centipede hill, don't be afraid, there are lots of centipedes on it. When you come to the snow mountain, don't fear the cold. When you come to the door of heaven, an old man guards it who will not let you in. Tell him who you are and all about yourself, and he will allow you to enter. On entering heaven the deceased may meet father or mother, or some other relation, and live with them. If he does get into heaven he will be happy, but if he fails to enter he will have to be reborn and suffer on earth." When the exorcist has finished his directions, he wrings the neck of a fowl, and this fowl in the other world will lead the soul to the door of heaven. The body is carried out on the bamboo matter frame and laid in the coffin. A son of the deceased, or a younger member of the family, bewails the dead and calls out the near relationship 3 times. When the corpse is encoffined, the exorcist takes a short bamboo tube in which is some water, and splits it on the coffin, saying, "On which side this water flows, drink water on that side." This means that, on the journey to heaven, when the deceased is thirsty he is to drink water on that side of the road. Next the exorcist takes some blades of cutting grass and chops them in pieces, saying, "If your brother or sister or other relative follows you, you must send them back." He then throws the chopper and the cut grass from the head of the grave past the foot of it. This is done to prevent any other of the family dying and following the deceased. Then the son with a mattock begins to fill in the grave, the others assist till the grave is filled in and the earth piled over it. When returning home, a tub or basin of water is placed on the road at the entrance of the village, in which all who have assisted at burial wash their hands. The last person to wash smashes the tub or basin. On returning to the house they all eat a meal. On the 3rd day after the funeral some of the family rise at cock crow, and proceeding to the grave call upon the deceased to return. They pick up small stones and, throwing them at the grave, say, "Who is keeping our father? Let him come back." In crossing a stream they lay a bamboo pole across it, and say that the spirit may pass over that. When daylight comes they burn incense at the grave and offer a fowl or duck and some whiskey. The fowl or duck is killed at the grave, and the whiskey poured out on the grave. On their return home they place the shoes of the departed near some water in a basin, with a towel, and call upon him to come and wash his face. They also offer some cooked fowl, whiskey, and rice to the deceased. After these ceremonies some rice is given to all the guests, who may eat it at once or take it home with them. The Miao, when a man or woman is about to die, send for the exorcist, who first assures himself that the patient is actually dying and not merely fainting. When it appears that the sick person is really dying, the exorcist relates the story of Gloin and Noe, the first man and woman, and the making of heaven and earth, so that the moribund may know his way about after death. The exorcist then says, "I shall now show you the way to heaven. On the road there are many creeping things, so you must wear a pair of hemp sandals lest they bite your feet. When you get halfway up, you will see tigers with their mouths wide open waiting to devour you. Carry some hemp on your back, and when a tiger attempts to bite you, let him bite the hemp and make your escape. When you are halfway up, the sun shines with a burning heat, take this piece of calico and cover your eyes, you will find it in your breast pocket. When you arrive at the gate of heaven, the doorkeeper may refuse to let you in, and you must beseech him to let you pass. If he says, "If I open the gate, will you transform yourself and be my ox?" you must answer, "No." "I will not." If he says, "Will you be my horse?" you must say, "No." "I will not." Then say to him, "I will transform myself and be your servant." When you say this, he will open the door, and you must quickly pass in and go on. After walking for some time, you will come to a place where there are 3 roads. The one to the right is for Chinese, the one to the left for Aichia, and the one in the middle is the Miao road, which all your forefathers have taken. If someone finely dressed comes to show you the way, it is someone come to deceive you, and not one of your ancestors. If a person wearing coarse clothes comes to lead you, follow him. He is one of your forefathers. If someone with a bad heart asks, "Who brought you here?" you must say, "One tall and stout." If they ask you, "Can you find him?" you must say, "You cannot overtake him. His eyes are as big as a cup and his ears as big as a fan." And now, the exorcist concludes, "I have shown you the way to your ancestors and the demons, or spirits, and you must remain there forever." Subsequently, at different periods, the Miao offer sacrifices to their ancestors. Probably all the oxen killed among them are killed as offerings to their ancestors or to demons. We were never able to buy beef among the Miao, though they killed oxen 2 or 3 times a month, because they were all used as offerings to the dead or to demons, and the Miao Christians did not think it right to eat such beef. The Chio Miao sacrifice to heaven and earth once a year. They offer an ox to heaven and a pig to earth. They have a big sacrifice once in 13 years, when they sacrifice buffaloes to heaven. On this occasion, every family is expected to kill a buffalo, so sometimes several tens of buffaloes are killed in one village. They also sacrifice to their ancestors. These offerings and sacrifices to ancestors are not made from love, we imagine, so much as fear. They think if they do not offer these sacrifices, the spirits of their ancestors will come and bring calamities upon them. Marriage among the Miao is arranged much the same as among the Chinese, by a matchmaker or go-between, but, unlike the Chinese, the matchmaker mostly comes upon the scene after the young people have shown a decided preference for one another. The young men and maidens do much of their courting quite openly at the musical festivals and at the village fairs.